In 1590, an English governor sailed back to a colony he'd left 3 years earlier. He found 115 people gone. No bodies, no signs of violence, no burned structures. Just one word carved into a post: Croatoan. For 400 years, that word has been called one of history's greatest mysteries. It isn't. The colonists carved exactly what John White told them to carve. This is the story of what happened, and why a country that had the answer in 1709 is still calling it unsolved. John White was not a soldier. He was an artist, a map maker, the kind of man who documented things carefully. In 1587, Sir Walter Raleigh sent him to lead a second attempt at an English colony in the New World. 115 people, including women and children, on Roanoke Island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Among them, White's own daughter, Eleanor, and on August 18, 1587, her daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. 9 days later, White sailed back to England for supplies. He never meant to be gone long. But England was at war with Spain. The Armada arrived in 1588. Every available ship was commandeered. White couldn't get back. He finally returned to Roanoke Island in August of 1590, 3 years later. The settlement was empty. The structures were standing. The palisade fence had been built up, suggesting a planned, orderly departure, not a panicked flight. And on one of the posts of the fort's entrance, carved in neat capital letters, Croatoan. White noted this in his journal with something that reads, "Across 400 years, like relief." Because before he left, he and the colonists had made a specific agreement. If they moved, they were to carve the name of their destination. If they left under duress, they were to carve a cross beneath the name. There was no cross. The colonists had left a forwarding address. Croatoan was not a mystery word. It was the name of a place and a people, the Croatoan Nation, living on what is now called Hatteras Island, roughly 50 miles south of Roanoke. The Croatoan were not strangers to the English. A man named Monteo, a Croatoan leader, had sailed to England in 1584. He'd returned with the first expedition. He was trusted. He was White's contact in the region. The colonists didn't disappear into the wilderness. They went to people they knew. Now hold that thought, because here is where the file starts to thicken. In 1709, 119 years after White's return, a naturalist named John Lawson traveled through the Carolina interior. He wrote a book called A New Voyage to Carolina. In it, he described meeting a people on the Hatteras, the descendants of the Croatoan, who told him directly. Several of their ancestors were white people who could talk in a book. They had gray eyes in a tribe where gray eyes were otherwise unknown. They used English words mixed into their language. They practiced customs the surrounding tribes did not. Lawson didn't think of this as a mystery. He thought of it as history. And still, the textbooks called it unsolved. In 1885, a North Carolina state legislator named Hamilton Macmillan published a paper. He had spent years with the Lumbee people, descendants of the Croatoan, documenting their oral tradition and their language. He found 95 English words still embedded in their dialect. He found English surnames: Dare, Harvey, Cooper, Sampson, recurring across Lumbee family trees from the same generation that would align with the colony's children and grandchildren. His conclusion was not tentative. He called it a settlement of the question. Still. Mystery. In 2012, a team from the First Colony Foundation excavated a site on Hatteras Island at a location consistent with the Croatoan village described in historical records. They found a 16th century English signet ring, copper fittings, pottery sherds from the same period as the colony, physical, archaeological, documented, still, mystery. And in 2015, geneticist Roberta Estes published the first systematic DNA study of Lumbee and Hatteras descendants. She found mitochondrial DNA lineages consistent with European admixture at a frequency and in a pattern that aligned with a 16th century integration event. Not Spanish, not French. Specifically consistent with English colonial contact. Still, mystery. You begin to notice a pattern. So let me ask the question plainly. If a destination was carved, if eyewitness testimony was written down in 1709, if surnames survived in family lines, if English words survived in a language, if physical artifacts were excavated, if DNA confirmed admixture, at what point does a mystery become a suppression? The Lumbee Nation is the largest Native American tribe east of the Mississippi River. Approximately 60,000 enrolled members concentrated in Robeson County, North Carolina, where Hatteras Island is nearby, where the descendants of the Croatoan settled and remained. They have claimed ancestry from the Roanoke colonists since the 18th century, not as a recent theory, not as a revisionist reading. It is in their oral history. It is in their surnames. It is in their language. And they have been told, repeatedly, that their story is a mystery. In 1709, Lawson documented them and moved on. In 1885, Macmillan documented them and was largely ignored. In 1937, a college professor named Leo Scruggs began finding carved stone tablets, the Dare stones, allegedly written by Eleanor Dare, White's daughter, describing the colony's fate. 47 stones eventually appeared. Most were quickly proven fraudulent. But the first stone, the one found by a tourist named Lewis Hammond, has never been definitively disproven. The original stone sits in a museum. The story it tells matches what the Lumbee already knew. Mainstream academia chose to dismiss all the stones together rather than deal with what the genuine one implied. It was easier to say, mystery. In 2012, the First Colony Foundation's Hatteras Dig was not funded by the federal government. It was funded by private donors and a small North Carolina state grant. Compare that to Jamestown, which receives sustained federal archaeological support. Jamestown is often called the first permanent English settlement in America because Roanoke is called lost. An unfounded settlement is easier to memorialize than a settlement that merged with an indigenous nation. Because if Roanoke succeeded, if those colonists didn't vanish but integrated, then the founding story of English America becomes more complicated. It becomes a story about coexistence, about survival through indigenous partnership, about the Croatoan choosing to absorb a group of strangers. That story is harder to make into a monument. In 2020, a University of Bristol research team working with a BBC documentary conducted the most comprehensive DNA analysis yet of individuals with documented Hatteras Island heritage. The results showed European genetic admixture in a pattern consistent with a 16th century founding event, specifically consistent with the period and geography of the Roanoke colony. Not consistent with Spanish explorers. Not consistent with later English settlers. Consistent with 115 English colonists who disappeared from Roanoke Island in the late 1580s and reappeared, as Lawson noticed, as Macmillan noticed, as the Lumbee always knew, among the Croatoan. In 2016, History Channel aired Roanoke, Return to the Lost Colony. In 2018, they aired a sequel. Both framed the story as an unsolved mystery. Neither mentioned Lawson's 1709 account with any seriousness. Neither asked the Lumbee Nation for comment. The mystery is a product. The mystery is sellable. The mystery generates tourism to Roanoke Island, which has run an outdoor drama called The Lost Colony every summer since 1937. Oldest outdoor drama in the United States, attended by millions, still running. The drama does not end with the colonists going to live with the Croatoan. That would be a much shorter play. This is the first layer of suppression. Is worth money. The answer isn't. The second layer is legal. The Lumbee people have sought federal recognition since 1888. They have a longer documented history of political organization than most recognized tribes. In 1956, Congress passed the Lumbee Act, which acknowledged them as Indians, but specifically, explicitly denied them access to federal services and protections available to all other recognized tribes. Read that again. A federal law that says, "We acknowledge you exist. We will not help you." The stated reason was fiscal, the cost of extending services to 60,000 people. The unstated consequence was continued administrative erasure of the largest indigenous nation in the eastern United States. Bills to grant full recognition have passed the House of Representatives twice, in 2009 and 2019. Both died in the Senate. In 2024, the Lumbee Recognition Act was introduced again. The same story, the same pattern, the same silence. And here is the connection the history books don't draw. A people whose ancestors may have sheltered 115 English colonists in the 16th century, and who have been asking the United States government to recognize their existence for 136 years, are still classified as a mystery. The colony isn't lost. The people who kept them are. Here is what the evidence actually says. John White's own journal. The colonists left a destination, no duress marker. A planned departure. Manteo of the Croatoan, known to the colonists, trusted by them, the logical receiving community. John Lawson, 1709, gray eyes, English words, oral tradition of white ancestry. Hamilton Macmillan, 1885, 95 English words, matching surnames, consistent generational alignment. First Colony Foundation, 2012. 16th century English artifacts at the Croatoan site. University of Bristol DNA analysis 2020. European admixture consistent with the colony's period and origin. Every independent line of evidence points to the same conclusion. The Roanoke colonists did not vanish. They were absorbed into the Croatoan Nation. Their descendants became in part the people now called Lumbee. The Lumbee have said this for 3 centuries. What the historical establishment has said back is, interesting theory. Bill Maisel, a cultural historian who spent 40 years researching this case, put it simply. He said the reason the mystery persists is not the evidence. The evidence is there. The reason the mystery persists is that accepting it requires accepting that the first successful English settlement in America survived through indigenous generosity, and that we have spent the years since making sure the people who showed that generosity are as invisible as possible. The case is not cold. The case is documented. What remains uncertain? The exact mechanism. When precisely the integration happened. Whether all 115 went to Croatoan or whether some dispersed differently. the fate of Virginia Dare specifically. These are real gaps. But gaps in a story are not the same as a mystery. A mystery implies no answer is known. An answer is known. What's missing are footnotes. The Lumbee Nation is still here. The Hatteras Algonquin people are still here. The DNA is testable. The oral history is documented. The surnames are on record. The artifacts are in cases. The word on the post said, Croatoan. John White knew what it meant. We've spent 400 years pretending we don't. The file stays open, not because we don't know what happened, but because the people it happened to are still waiting to be recognized. This is American Dossier. The case is documented.